So we're going to do a little reflection on practice 6, which is reflecting on our actions. And Tommy, would you be willing to read the practice and then each of the 4 dimensions as well? And if you have copies that you can have in front of you, that would be wonderful, or they're right here on the screen. So feel free to take a look at them there.
All right. Consciously reflect upon and evaluate our actions and the ways we use power in order to learn and grow into mature and courageous leaders. Personal. We evaluate our actions and the ways we use or experience power, integrating what each exchange of thought has to teach us by regularly reflecting, praying, and or spending time in conscious relationship with the natural world. Interpersonal. We reflect with others on our actions, as well as our experience and use of power, gaining wisdom from diverse perspectives and learning from one another. Community. We create a culture of reflection and evaluation within our communities, regularly assessing our power dynamics and learning from our gatherings and actions in order to mature as leaders and communities. Public sphere. We collectively reflect and evaluate the power dynamics of all public actions, including their impact on relationship development, leadership capacity, public systems, marginalized communities, and the natural world.
All right. Well, so I won't tell the whole story, but I will just say that there's someone that both Robin and I know that has that talks about the reflection and evaluation process as the place where that's where the learning happens. So, sometimes we think about, the actions that we do, the projects that we do, that's the thing, that's the focus of our work, right? So you might think about your eco-reformation project like that's the focus. Well, our friend Matt has been so converted to the process of evaluation and reflection that he says, oh, no, that's part of it. But the real thing is the evaluation afterwards, because that's where all the learning happens. So this practice number 6 kind of helps us really turn things around in our own consciousness about what we're here for and where the learning happens. So I'm curious. There is a word that comes up in every one of these dimensions that is not reflect and it's not action, because that's part of the definition. Can you identify what word that is that comes up in every one of these definitions?
Every one of the sub-definitions of number 6 or every one of the practices?
No, every one of the sub-definitions. Okay. Thank you for the clarity, yeah, of practice 6.
So that's not reflecting. What other word?
If it's not reflect, then it's not action, because that's the title of it, right? So that's going to be there throughout. But there's one more word that comes up in every one of the dimensions.
I know.
What you got, Scott?
Power.
Power. Now that's interesting. As I was reflecting on this practice, what I discovered is that this practice is about power. And I'm thinking about that in a number of different ways. First, it is to make the choice to reflect on our actions, to reflect on what we do, to reflect on our day, to reflect on our experiences. That in and of itself is a process of claiming our own power. Because we can go through an entire day, we can go through years, we can have decades of our lives that we just experience, and without that reflection afterwards or in the process, we could go through all these these periods of time really as a victim of life circumstance, and therefore a victim of power dynamics. But simply the choice to say, I'm going to reflect on my actions, I'm going to reflect on what happened, is in and of itself a way to claim our power and agency in the world. And I was struck by that. That is an act of power, to simply choose to reflect and to learn from our actions. The second piece that I notice is that the process of reflection and evaluation is the process of maturation. And that's right there in the definition, the primary definition. In order to grow, to learn and to grow into mature and courageous leaders. And if you think about that, if you think about, as we grow, as we get older, and as we have more and more life experiences, one would hope that we are also maturing in the process. And how does maturation happen? Well, to reflect on our actions is one of the primary ways that maturation can happen, because we're developing a consciousness, and we're inviting ourselves to learn constantly about who we are, about other people, and about the dynamics that are around us. And then the third point, and then I'm going to invite any questions or feedbacks or insights that you all have as well. The third insight that I had about this is that you'll see in most of the dimensions, well, in all the dimensions really, when we're talking about power, we're evaluating, we're reflecting on our use or experience of power, experience and use of power, assessing power dynamics, evaluating power dynamics. And so what we're talking about is becoming conscious of the varying ways that power is used. And the power expresses itself or gets expressed in groups, in ourselves, in actions, in what's going on. And as we are all well aware, the misuse of power is when people get hurt. We could talk about misuse of power as sin in theological language. And so what came to me with this practice 6 and that discipline of reflecting on the way power is used and the way we experience power is actually, it's a discipline of faith. It is a way that we essentially can have some power to manifest the kingdom of God in the present moment. Because if we grow in our consciousness of power dynamics and being able to identify when power is not being used well or wisely by ourselves or others, then we have a chance to address it. And we have a chance to bring things back into right relationship with power and one another. And so I really saw that this practice is a pretty radical faith practice. And to the extent that we are unconscious of power dynamics, then we can let power imbalances, we can let them stay, right? If we're not consciously continually growing in our ways of seeing and then addressing varying power dynamics, both on the very personal, interpersonal, in our communities, and in the public sphere. So those are some of the insights that I wanted to share today about this practice, and I would invite any and all reflection that you might have as well about this practice number 6, reflecting on our actions.